AITA for installing a lock on my fridge to stop my roommate from stress eating my food. I had to buy a new refrigerator because she broke the previous one. I 30 female have lived with my current roommate Sarah 29 female for just over a year now. When I first moved in, things seemed pretty chill. Sarah was friendly, charming in that chaotic but lovable way, and we hit it off over wine and Netflix marathons. I thought I'd hit the roommate jackpot. We split bills evenly, she didn't bring home strangers, and she even helped clean, well, at first. But over time, one tiny, infuriating habit began to unravel the illusion: she eats everything. Not just her food. My food. Our food. Random snacks that mysteriously disappear. Groceries I've just bought. Leftovers I was looking forward to all day. And every single time, she has the same excuse. She's stressed. Her job is demanding, her ex won't stop texting her, her mom is on her case again, and so on. She acts like emotional eating gives her a free pass to open the fridge and treat it like a buffet, regardless of whose name is on the label. At first, I was empathetic. I get it, life is hard and comfort food is real. I didn't mind when she grabbed a cookie or two, or when she made a grilled cheese using the bread and cheese I bought. We all share space, right? I figured it would balance out. I even told her once, hey, feel free to have some of the soup I made, just leave a bowl or two for me. Rookie mistake. She ate the entire pot and left the empty container in the sink with a post-it note that said, OMG, so good. TWSM. Over time, the little bites turned into whole meals. I started noticing things vanishing within hours of being put into the fridge. A full carton of strawberries I was saving for smoothies. Gone. The sushi I ordered and couldn't finish, placed lovingly in a container for tomorrow's lunch. Devoured. Even the snacks I kept in the pantry started disappearing. I'd buy a box of granola bars, come home from work, and suddenly 5 were gone, and the box would be shoved behind something like she was trying to hide the evidence. Whenever I brought it up, politely at first, Sarah would go full melodramatic. She'd gasp and say she didn't realize it was mine, or she thought we were sharing everything. She'd hug me dramatically and say she'd replace it, then Venmo me $5 with a pizza emoji in the description. But she never actually replaced anything. Not once. And I started to resent the fact that I had to tiptoe around my own food in my own home. The final straw came after a week from hell. I'd had back-to-back deadlines at work, my manager was on my case about everything, and my car broke down in the middle of a rainstorm. I was exhausted, overstimulated, and hanging on by a thread. So I decided to self-soothe the best way I know how, by baking. Specifically, making tiramisu. From scratch. I had never attempted tiramisu before, but I was determined. I bought mascarpone, ladyfingers, espresso, eggs, heavy cream, the whole 9 yards. I cleared my schedule for the evening, poured a glass of wine, and started what I hoped would be my little edible therapy session. And it was glorious. Meditative. I whipped the cream until my arm felt like it would fall off. I carefully dipped the ladyfingers just right, layered everything with love, and dusted it with cocoa powder like I was presenting it to a panel of pastry judges. I put it in the fridge to set overnight, dreaming of the moment I would finally dive into it with a big spoon the next day. That tiramisu was not just dessert, it was my reward, my comfort, my joy after a grueling week. I even told Sarah about it that night when she got home, specifically saying, please don't touch the tiramisu. It's been a rough week. This one's really important to me. The next day, I got home from work, still riding the high of finally meeting my deadline. I walked into the kitchen, already picturing the moment I'd take that first sweet, creamy bite. But the dish was empty. Spotless. Like it had been licked clean. All that remained was a sticky note on top of the pan that said, sorry. I owe you, smiley face. I stood there, holding the note like it was a death certificate. I genuinely could not believe it. She hadn't even tried to lie. Hadn't bothered to leave a slice. Hadn't messaged me. She just ate the entire thing and walked away, leaving a smiley face as if that would make it better. I felt my soul leave my body. I wasn't even angry at first. I was just done. Completely and utterly done. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I walked to my room, pulled out my laptop, and ordered a small, lockable mini fridge. I paid for same-day delivery. I also ordered a small lockbox for the pantry snacks I keep in my room. And when it arrived, I moved every single item of mine into that fridge. Eggs, milk, yogurt, butter, even condiments. All of it. When Sarah got home and saw the fridge locked, she stared at it like I had personally insulted her grandmother. She asked what was going on, and I calmly told her that I was tired of my food disappearing, and I needed a way to make sure that what I bought stayed mine. That was when the drama truly began. She accused me of being passive-aggressive, said I was changing the vibe of the apartment, and claimed I was treating her like a child. I calmly reminded her that I had repeatedly asked her not to eat my food, that she had repeatedly ignored those requests, and that locking up my stuff was the only solution left that didn't involve me moving out. Sarah didn't take that well. She started sulking around the apartment, making snide comments under her breath, loudly announcing that she had nothing to eat even though she had her own groceries. Then she tried to get our other roommates involved, hoping they'd back her up. Big mistake. Turns out, I wasn't the only one hiding snacks. One of our other roommates keeps her chocolate in her underwear drawer because Sarah borrows it constantly. Another one had started eating dinner at her boyfriend's place just to avoid the drama. Nobody backed her up. If anything, they seemed relieved that someone finally stood up to her snack-stealing ways. She still complains, and every now and then she tries to sneak into my fridge if I forget to lock it. But for the most part, I finally have peace. My food is safe. My snacks stay where I left them. And the tiramisu incident has become something of a legend in our apartment. Even our other roommates refer to it as the dessert that broke the fridge. So am I the asshole for locking up my food? Or is Sarah just mad she can't steal my serotonin anymore? Update 1. After the tiramisu pogrom, as my other roommates had started calling it with a mix of humor and disbelief, I genuinely thought I had reached the final level of Sarah's food-thieving madness. I had learned my lesson the hard way, and I was determined not to let history repeat itself. That's when my small lockable refrigerator became more than just an appliance, it became my temple. A sacred vault of peace. My own little corner of sanity in an apartment where boundaries meant nothing to one particular person. I was meticulous. I bought small locks for the pantry bins I kept in my room. I labeled everything I could. My mini fridge was secured at all times, and I even placed it in the corner of my bedroom next to my desk, where I worked remotely most days. It gave me comfort. I knew that whatever little joy I prepared for myself, be it leftovers from takeout, fresh groceries, or the occasional I survived Monday cheesecake, would still be there the next day, untouched and unbothered. But Sarah wasn't done. At first, it was little things. Passive-aggressive notes taped to the shared fridge, things like, "Some of us like to share," smiley face, or, "It must be so nice having your own fridge." Then it was the noise. She'd slam cabinet doors when I cooked in the kitchen or sigh dramatically if I passed by with a container in hand. I started to ignore her. I wasn't interested in the petty power struggle. All I wanted was to eat food I'd paid for without having to inventory it like I was managing a medieval grain store. Then came the shepherd's pie incident. It had been a long week. Again. I was juggling a major deadline, managing a demanding client who seemed to think I was a 24/7 hotline, and on top of that, I was dealing with insomnia that made me feel like a raccoon who'd accidentally enrolled in a finance job. So when the weekend finally rolled around, I decided to make something comforting. Something warm, hearty, and nostalgic. I settled on shepherd's pie. The real kind, too. None of that lazy, beef and boxed mash, shortcut stuff. I spent the afternoon peeling potatoes, slow-cooking ground beef with herbs and onions, and stirring peas into the mix with the care of a Victorian housewife. I whipped the mashed potatoes until they were creamy and rich, added a touch of garlic, layered everything together in a ceramic dish, and baked it until it was golden and bubbling. It was food made with intention. Comfort food with soul. I packed a generous portion into a container, let it cool, then placed it gently inside my mini fridge. I even did a double check, lock secured, door closed, key in my drawer. I went to bed that night with the peaceful satisfaction of knowing that tomorrow, I'd have something delicious waiting for me. A personal reward after a mentally exhausting week. The next morning, I woke up and immediately looked forward to lunch. That shepherd's pie had become my light at the end of the tunnel. I walked to my mini fridge, turned the key, and was greeted by the unimaginable. The door was broken. Not unlocked. Not picked. Broken. Torn at the hinges like someone had pried it open with brute force. The small fridge door hung crookedly, the interior light flickering, and the container, the sacred container, was empty. Licked clean, almost aggressively. And on top of it, taped like some kind of deranged trophy, was another sticky note. OMG, so good. You're the best roommate ever. It felt like a crime scene. I stood there, staring at the chaos, clutching the broken fridge door in my hand like a grieving widow holding onto a shattered photo frame. I didn't even react right away. My brain just refused to compute what I was seeing. That fridge had been locked. It was inside my room. And yet here I was, looking at the aftermath of what could only be described as a deliberate act of sabotage and selfishness. At first, I thought there had been a misunderstanding. That maybe the lock had malfunctioned. That someone else had done it. That there was some rational explanation. But then I heard Sarah. She was in the living room, on the phone, talking loudly and laughing like nothing was wrong. I froze when I heard her say, "I just opened this random container and found the most delicious food." Seriously, it was like gourmet. Totally unexpected. You know how I get lucky sometimes. My blood turned to ice. She didn't even try to deny it. She didn't hide it. She sounded proud, even amused. Like breaking into someone's personal fridge was a funny little anecdote she could drop into a casual conversation. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about food anymore. It was about entitlement. Control. The idea that my boundaries didn't matter, that what was mine was hers if she wanted it badly enough. Sarah didn't see this as theft. To her, I was just the reliable, overly polite roommate who cooked well and hoarded tasty things she felt entitled to sample. My locked fridge wasn't a boundary, it was a challenge. I didn't say anything that day. I didn't confront her. I didn't even tell the other roommates yet. I just stood there in my room, surrounded by the remains of my broken fridge and the ghost of a shepherd's pie, and I finally understood something I'd been avoiding. That's when I realized that something needs to be changed seriously. Upgrade 2. After the shepherd's pie debacle, the violent, greasy violation of my last bastion of peace, I knew I needed to escalate. It was clear that standard defenses were no longer sufficient. A tiny lockable fridge in my bedroom was no match for a roommate who treated boundaries like mildly annoying traffic cones. Sarah didn't respect property, privacy, or personal space. And worse, she seemed to think the whole thing was hilarious. I had given her grace. I had given her warnings. I had even given her tiramisu. And what had she given me in return? A smashed fridge and another post-it note smiley face. So I stopped thinking like a roommate and started thinking like someone building a fortress. I turned to eBay like a woman on a mission. I typed in keywords like secure, industrial, lab grade, and finally landed on something that made my cold, food-betrayed heart skip a beat. A used but sturdy metal refrigeration unit designed for laboratory use. Stainless steel, fully insulated, powered with a compressor that could run through a hurricane, and, best of all, a digital keypad lock. This wasn't a mini fridge. This was an appliance designed to store volatile chemicals and biohazards. And now it was going to store my leftovers. The listing was from a retired research lab, and after a few messages and some light haggling, I bought it for less than I expected. Delivery took a week, and I used that time to prepare. I cleared out a corner of the kitchen, no more hiding my food away like a squirrel in my bedroom. I wanted this thing front and center, a stainless steel middle finger to years of stolen snacks. When it arrived, it was everything I hoped for, massive, cold, unbreakable. It had a heavy door with reinforced hinges, a smooth metallic surface that looked immune to fingerprints, and a digital keypad that blinked with readiness. I mounted it in the corner, connected it to the network for remote monitoring, set a 6-digit code that only I knew, and just to be safe, I sealed every crack with weather-resistant tape. I even bought a motion sensor camera and mounted it on top, disguised inside a small potted plant. The result was something straight out of a Bond villain's kitchen. I called it Fort Cool. And to christen it, I made one of my favorite comfort meals, Thai red curry with chicken and vegetables over jasmine rice. I didn't cut corners. I simmered the curry paste with coconut milk until the smell made my eyes water in the best way. I added just the right amount of fish sauce and palm sugar, balanced it with lime, and gently folded in red peppers, bamboo shoots, and chunks of tender chicken. The jasmine rice fluffed perfectly. I plated a portion for dinner and packed the rest into a large, heat-safe container which I proudly locked into Fort Cool. That evening, I floated around the apartment. The aroma was still drifting through the air like incense. My roommates complimented the smell as they passed through the kitchen. Even Sarah lingered, sniffing theatrically and asking what I'd made. I just smiled. There was a new sheriff in town, and she didn't hand out curry. I went to bed feeling victorious, like I'd finally reclaimed something sacred. The next morning, I woke up early. I wanted to reheat the curry for lunch and enjoy it while the house was quiet. But the moment I stepped into the kitchen, I felt it. That awful, hollow feeling in the pit of my stomach, the one I'd gotten used to every time food went missing. The door to Fort Cool was ever so slightly ajar. My 6-digit code had been entered, the light on the keypad was green, and the interior was empty. Gone. All of it. The container had vanished like it had never existed. My hands shook as I searched for clues. There, in the sink, was the container. Rinsed carelessly but unmistakably mine. And next to it, the spoon. Still wet. Covered in a thin, orange film of curry. It was smeared, half-heartedly rinsed, like someone had at least tried to pretend they weren't caught. No sticky note this time. No cute little apology. Just silence and a sickly sweet smell of coconut and betrayal. I didn't need to guess who did it. But I needed to know. I went straight to my computer and pulled up the camera footage from the night before. It took a minute to load, and my heart was pounding the entire time. When it did, there she was. Sarah. Clear as day. Creeping into the kitchen in her oversized t-shirt and socks, looking around like a raccoon casing a campsite. She glanced at the camera, oblivious, since it was hidden, and then walked over to the table. That's when I saw it. The napkin. A stupid, innocent napkin where I had written down the new passcode while setting up the lock. I'd meant to throw it away and must have forgotten it on the table in a moment of distraction. She picked it up, squinted, then walked over to Fort Cool and typed the numbers in. The green light blinked. The door opened. And then she sat down. Right there. On the floor. In front of the open fridge. She pulled out the container, opened the lid, and started eating the curry straight from the pot with a spoon she grabbed off the counter. No plate. No heat up. No dignity. She sat there like it was her birthright. I watched the whole thing in stunned silence. She finished it, licked the spoon, dropped it in the sink, and walked away. No guilt. No remorse. Just another night in her world where my food was a free-for-all. That was the moment something inside me just snapped. It wasn't the curry. It wasn't even the broken fridge before it. It was the ease with which she did it. The entitlement. The laziness. The way she knew I would be furious but didn't care because consequences didn't exist for her. Not in this apartment. Not with me. Not until now. I felt my patience snap like a chocolate wrapper in her hands. Update 3. After watching Sarah sit on the floor like some kind of goblin feasting on my hard-earned curry straight out of Fort Cool, I realized I was past the point of salvaging any kind of respectful roommate dynamic. I had tried boundaries. I had tried technology. I had tried basic human decency. But nothing had worked. She didn't respond to conversation or confrontation. She responded only to consequences. So I decided to approach this the way I approach any crisis at work, with a spreadsheet. I sat down at my computer, cracked my knuckles like I was about to prepare for a board meeting, opened Excel, and created a brand new workbook titled Sarah's Greatest Hits, a catalog of culinary theft 2023 to 2025. I started going through my text messages, notes, and even security camera footage to compile every item of food she had ever stolen from me. I scrolled through my bank transactions and online grocery orders, cross-referencing dates with what had gone missing. I listed everything. Every single yogurt, every carton of oat milk, every protein bar, every avocado, and yes, even the steaks I had bought for my birthday barbecue that mysteriously disappeared the morning of the event, forcing me to show up with store-brand hot dogs like a disappointed uncle. Line by line, the list grew. A pint of expensive Greek yogurt, $6.49. My birthday steaks, $58.12. An entire lasagna I made for a Sunday night dinner, $28.93. A six-pack of kombucha, $18.75. The tiramisu, of course, was lovingly listed at $35.42 with a comment that read, "Emotional therapy dessert, devoured, zero remorse." For every item, I added a short note in the incident column. Some of my favorites included, stolen overnight, eaten without a trace, went in for one cookie, entire batch gone, and, instead of apology, smiley face. I added a date stolen column, an approximate time of crime, and for fun, a column titled Post-it Left. Y/N. When I finished, the total came out to $1,473.89. I stared at the number for a while, feeling a mixture of rage and validation. That was rent for an entire month. That was a short vacation. That was 3 used Fort Cool fridges. That was the cost of trusting the wrong person for way too long. Then I did something I had never done before. I turned that spreadsheet into an invoice. I opened my email and began drafting a message. Subject line, Roommate Reimbursement Statement, 2023 to 2025. I pasted the breakdown directly into the body of the email. No explanation. No sugarcoating. Just numbers, notes, and consequences. At the bottom, in bold red font, I added a single sentence. The amount can be paid in cash, Venmo, or in the form of complete isolation from other people's products for the next 12 months. I didn't just send it to Sarah. I CC'd all our roommates. Then I closed my laptop and went to clean Fort Cool, one hand still shaking slightly, not from anger anymore but from something closer to relief. I had finally done it. I had put it all out there, the literal and emotional cost of 2 years of stolen food and broken trust. The reaction came faster than I expected. 10 minutes later, Sarah's door creaked open like something out of a horror movie. I turned around and saw her standing in the hallway, pale and wide-eyed like she'd just seen her own karma staring back at her. She was holding something in her hand. A check. A physical check, as if she had traveled back in time to settle the debt with dignity. It was made out to me. The amount, $600. She didn't say much. Just that she was ashamed. That she hadn't realized how bad it had gotten. That it wouldn't happen again. And then, she changed. Sarah, the same woman who once stole my soup and left a winking emoji on the container, started cooking for herself. I watched her walk through the front door carrying bags of groceries she actually paid for. She bought her own mini fridge, a compact white one with a magnetic chalkboard on the front. She even put a little label on it that read, "Sarah's Do Not Touch." There was a cartoon skull and crossbones drawn under it for good measure. I didn't say anything. I just nodded and let it be. She started asking permission. She stopped hovering when I cooked. She stayed out of my lane, my fridge, and my food. The sticky notes stopped. The sighs, the muttering, the faux cute jokes about roommate tax, all of it gone. The atmosphere in the apartment slowly began to shift. The other roommates noticed too. One of them finally brought home a box of cookies and left them on the counter without fear. Another one cooked pasta and didn't sneak the leftovers into their room. We all started eating in the shared kitchen again, like a real household and not a bunker full of snack preppers. It took some time, but the tension deflated like a balloon left in the sun too long. I stopped flinching every time I opened the fridge. I stopped labeling everything with passive-aggressive Sharpie notes. I stopped expecting war. And then, finally, when the apartment felt whole again, I made another tiramisu. This time, I didn't cry while whisking the cream. I didn't hover by the fridge. I didn't double-lock the door or check the camera feed every 5 minutes. I just made it, I let it chill, I took a spoon, I sat down at the table, and this time, I ate it.